Hi everyone and welcome to the season recap number 2 where we discuss past 22-23 NHL season. And today we're going to discuss Atlantic Division. And we're going to start off with Montreal Canadiens, who were last in their division. And to be honest with you, I'm so upset about it because, I love Canadiens, I love their squad, and in my opinion the only weakness that they have in their squad is their defense. Because they have some experienced guys like Edmondson or Savard, but most of the guys have never played in a games in a season change games, like in a big games, for example, a playoff game. So in my opinion, this is the weakness that they have, because if we take a look at their offense, they have great youngsters like Slav, Caulfield, Suzuki. They have great experienced players like Anderson, and even if we take a look at their goalies, they have two great goalies, and in my opinion, their goalies one of the most underrated pair in the league, because we have Jake Allen who has experience, who has Stanley Cup at his back, and he really can play like Carey Price in his best era. And at the backup, we have Samuel Montembeault, who is really a great youngster. And in my opinion, he's one of the most underrated youngsters in the whole NHL. So we have two great goalies, we have great offense and bad defense. And in my opinion, this is the key. This is the only weakness that they have. So they were last this season with 68 points in 82 games. And in my opinion, I don't get why they are the weakest team in their division. I guess they just really had to try to tank for Connor Bedard, because just imagine if we add Connor Bedard to their offense, this team would be unstoppable. But I really think that in the mind of the GM, they really tried to do it, because I don't understand how you can be the last with that kind of squad. Because this squad is really one of the most underrated in the whole NHL. They have great youngsters, great experience, great goalies, so there is nothing to worry about. There is nothing to complain about, and there's only your players who can you rely on and who can really carry you at least to the playoffs. We don't speaking about sometimes when they were in a cup final like 3 years ago. But if we take a look at that squad that was 3 years ago, that was almost the same squad. Just some youngsters were added to the squad. So I don't know why they are last, and I'm so upset about it. At the 7th place, we have Detroit Red Wings. And in my opinion, Red Wings have the worst squad in the whole NHL. Even with the Arizona, even with the Blackhawks existing in this league. In my opinion, Detroit Red Wings has the worst squad in the whole NHL. In my opinion, there's no doubt, because, if we look at the Coyotes, if we look at the Blackhawks, they have their rebuilding process. They have their rebuild, they still collecting some youngsters, some picks to do better, in 5 years later. But if we take a look at the Red Wings, we may notice that they ended their rebuild. They had the times where they were last in the whole NHL. Then they did draft some great players like Zyder, Raymond Larkin, for example. And then what do we see? We see nothing. They still at the bottom of the league. They didn't even try to fight for this playoff spot. And in my opinion, the problem of this Red Wings squad is no depth. They have no depth players, and they have no depth of their bench, because can you name at least 5 players who played not all season long in this Red Wings squad? I cannot, and I bet you cannot. So this is the problem of Red Wings. They have great goalies. In my opinion, Husso and Nedeljkovic are the goalies who can carry you in the playoffs, because if Husso won't play well, then you have Alex Nedeljkovic, who really played well at the Devils. So I can say that I love Red Wings, and I can say that I hate Red Wings. But in my opinion, Red Wings have no future even when they finish their rebuild stage of their franchise. So I am really not disappointed at their position when I look at their standings, because I know that Red Wings really deserving to be at the bottom of their division because they have strong division as of right now, while Sabres, Senators finished their rebuild stage. But Red Wings have no future in my opinion because there is no one who you can build your team around. Yeah, they did trade for Alex DeBrincat as of right now, but Dylan Larkin wants to leave, if I'm not mistaken, and as I told in previous episodes, Alex DeBrincat won't solve their problems because there is no one who Alex DeBrincat can play with in their squad as of right now. They need to improve their offense. They need to improve their depth for fight for something. That's my point. At the 6th place, we have Ottawa Senators, and in my opinion, Senators, they have great squad in terms of depth because even if we look at the top 6, we may notice that almost every player from the bottom 6 can play at the top 6. I know great example of Andrew Watson who was at the 3rd line. Then this season, if I'm not mistaken, Norris were injured and Andrew Watson replaced him at the 2nd line, and he was really good at the 2nd line. So Senators had 86 points, and that's 6 points away from the playoff zone. That's not so sad for the Senators because, one more time, as I told in the previous episodes, they have some room to sign some great players like Tarasenko and fight for the playoffs next season. But in this season, I can tell that they have great offense, they have mid defense in my opinion, but with Chikran they really improved it. And I can tell that I like the defense of the Senators just because of their names, because that's not the names like Hedman or Sergachev, for example. Those names are always on hype. You hear these names almost every time when they come into the ice. But what about the Chikran, Charo, for example? These guys are quiet and they really making their job quietly because there is a statement that says great defenseman is the guy who you never talking about because their job is like they have to do it silent. So that's it. About the goalies of the Senators, I don't really think that with a goalie like Cam Talbot you can even fight for the playoffs. But with their squad, with their depth, I can say that I really do believe that they will fight for the playoffs next season. But they have to sign someone in replacement for Alex DeBrincat. At the 5th place, we have Buffalo Sabres, and this is one of the most disappointing moments of the whole season, in my opinion, because 1 point short for making playoffs. That's so sad. And I don't care about Panthers making the finals this season. In my opinion, Sabres really deserved it more, because Panthers are in the 4th place in this division, and it's so sad for the Sabres, because I remember the times of the Sabres where they were like Coyotes as of right now, like Blackhawks as of right now. They had really nothing. They had no players. They had literally no one. As of right now, they have great mixture of youngsters like Thompson, Cousins, Darlin, Power, and at the other side, they have great experienced players like Talk, Skinner. This is the great combo, and this combo will lead them to the playoffs next season. As of right now, I can tell only one weakness of this squad of the Sabres is goalies. Because, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Comrie, Anderson, this is, that's not a goalies that you can fight for the playoffs with. Because either they are young or old. Craig Anderson is the guy who played his whole career in the teams like nowadays Red Wings. And that's so sad because, he has some experience, but he has no experience how to fight for something more than just a 1st round pick. That's it. So in my opinion, Sabres really need to fix their goalies, and then we may even talk about them making 2nd round, not playoffs, because as of right now they can make playoffs even with this kind of goalies. But if they will fix them, we'll see this improving of even expectations of them, because as of right now, the only expectation that Sabres fans have is making playoffs. Just imagine if they sign in someone like Georgiev or Kemper, they will really improve it, and expectations of their fans will go higher to the second round at least, because as of right now, guys like Tage Thompson and Alex Sack really can carry them even higher, as we see the Panthers did this season. So what about the Panthers at the 4th place? I can tell that there was a lucky bounce, but in the playoffs we saw a really great, run from them. We won't speak about the playoffs because I really think that was a fluke. We won't see Panthers even near the finals, at least in 5 years. That's my point. But what about the regular season? In my opinion, they have no consistency. And I told it in the previous episodes when we discussed playoffs, that you won't see the same pass, the same goal, the same play from Panthers from game to game, because they have no system. And when we speaking about their offense, we may notice some system in their entry zone and their power play, but what about the defense? Their defense, in my opinion, is so weak, because Gudas is the guy who, he's nervous and he's so emotional that he can, punch some guy in the face, and that will cost them like 5 minutes short-handed, and you may lose this game because of it. Brandon Montour is the guy who you really can rely on, but he's only one. He's the one. That's it. And what about their goalies? Bobrovsky and Knight, they are great, but I don't really think that Bobrovsky will play like that once again, that, Knight will somehow play consistently because he's so young. And they have, in my opinion, Panthers have only hope in the goaltending in Alex Lyon, because this guy can surprise us. We don't know his potential. We know how he played in AHL, in the lower leagues, but at the NHL, at this kind of hockey, we didn't see him. So this guy may really surprise us. At the 3rd place, we have Tampa Bay Lightning, and in my opinion, this squad of Tampa, we don't speak even about the playoffs, we speak only about regular season. This squad of Tampa gave it all, because those seasons, like when they were at the top of the league, when they get 2 cups in a row, these seasons, Tampa really gets old and they got tired. So they really had to fix it this mid-season, this preseason, by some signings. But they gave up Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, if I'm not mistaken, and they got themselves Nick Paul. If I'm not mistaken, that was the only, some great signs, because signing of Nick Paul is really great. But then at the mid-season, right at the deadline, we saw Lightning fighting for the wild card, and they decided that they have to improve their squad, and they traded for Tyler Jeannot. They gave a lot for him, but just for what? He didn't play like they did expect. So that was the problem. And in my opinion, the problem of Tampa is their old squad, because this squad is tired. They have to add some fresh blood to this squad. That's all I gotta say. At the 2nd place, we have Toronto Maple Leafs, and Toronto Maple Leafs is the team that shows us how different regular season hockey and playoff hockey, because this team can really play at the open ice with some, with some space. But we know that when you go into the playoffs, there is no space on the ice. There is nothing you can do at the open ice because there is no open ice at the playoffs. And when we take a look at the standings, they have 111 points. That's insane, because how this team cannot win a cup. Just imagine. But we saw it. So about Maple Leafs, I told that they really have to teach. They have to improve their contact playing, because when they have an open ice, when they have a space, when they have a time, they are playing great. There's nothing you can add to their play at the regular season because they're really crushing their opponents. But when it comes to the playoffs, they just losing. They just need to improve their, contact hockey. Then they maybe will fight for something more than second round. That's my point. And at the first place, we have Boston Bruins, who really crushed this regular season. They beat a lot of records. They were, the greatest team that I've ever witnessed this regular season. And I can say nothing about them because what can you say? Linus Ullmark had the season of his life. Guys like Berry, Pasta, Krejci, Marchand, they gave it all. They really found their rhythm. They found their pace, how they comfortable to play, and they just crushed their opponents from game to game. There's no more I can say about them. So, if we take a look at the whole standings, I'm really surprised about Canadians being so low. And in my opinion, they just really tanked for the Connor Bedard. But that's not how it went, because they got only 5th pick, if I'm not mistaken. What more I can say? Sabres really got unlucky one more time, but I hope that next season they will show us what they are made of. Tampa really needs some improving at their depth and at their bottom 6, but that's not, there's no guarantee that this improving will help them. So that's all I wanted to discuss with y'all. Thank you for listening. Hear you soon.